My Aunt Amma was 7 when she died. The doctor wrote one word in ink. My grandmother wrote the real one in pencil. For 37 years, the two words were kept apart. My Aunt Amma was 7 when she died. In the missionary physician's notebook, her death was marked inconclusive. In my grandmother's hand, on a torn page kept in a tin biscuit box, another word was written in pencil. Adze. For 37 years, the two words were kept apart. Origin Protocol. Witness File 013, Case Designation, Witness, Art 013. Subject, Akpene Dogbey, age 35 at the time of writing. Mother of 2 children. Kpando, Volta Region, Southern Ghana. The testimony was written in October 1925, 3 weeks before her death. The tin box passed to me at my father's death in 1947. I am Kojo Dogbey. I read the letter the night after my father's funeral. He had carried it for 40 years in silence. In 1962, 5 years after our independence, I found the page that made the two words one record again. Containment method, maternal silence preserved across 3 generations. Witness claims, maternal. I write this in October 1925. My daughter Alma would have been 45 years old. My son Kofi sits beside me as I write. He is 43. He has not seen his sister in 38 years. He saw her last on the morning she died. He was 5 years old. The night before, he had been sleeping on the mat beside her. He woke me before dawn and said, "Mama, there was a small light in the room." "Mama, I tried to catch it." "Mama, it went into the wall." I told him to go back to sleep. I told him fireflies cannot enter a closed hut, that he had been dreaming. He was 5. He went back to sleep. By the time the morning light came through the high opening in our hut wall, Alma was pale and cold and would not wake. She had been a healthy child. She had carried water from the village well the previous afternoon. She had eaten cassava and groundnut paste with her brother in the evening. She had laughed with him over a small carving I had made for her of a firefly because she liked them, because they came in the dusk before the rains and she said they made the air look like it was holding stars. She had gone to sleep on the mat beside Kofi at the usual time. The night had not been unusual. There had been no light at the threshold opening that I had seen, only the closed cloth I always hung at dusk. There had been no marks on her body when I uncovered her in the morning. Her skin had the dried palm oil tone that Kofi has remembered every year for 38 years. Her eyes were open. She did not respond when I said her name. She did not respond when I held her. By the 3rd day she could not stand. By the 5th day she could not speak. By the 7th day she was gone. The missionary physician arrived in our village on the 3rd day, carrying his leather case and his medical notebook. He had been in Anyako, 2 days' walk to the south, and the messenger I had sent with my husband's permission had reached him on the 2nd night. He came as quickly as a man can walk in the rains. He sat with Alma for the 4 days she had left. He took her temperature and her pulse and he listened to her chest and he wrote in his notebook in English. I asked him in you what he was writing. He answered in you. He spoke our language well, Kofi. The missionary physician spoke our language. That is why your grandmother chose to send for him. The missionary physician was named Dr. Edward Holloway. He had come to the Volta region in 1881 from a town near Manchester. He had spent 2 years at Anyako and 3 years moving between the coastal U villages with his medical case and his notebook. He had treated my father for a fever in 1883. He had delivered Kofi in 1882, and he had been the reason Kofi survived a cord wrapped twice around his neck at birth. We trusted Dr. Holloway. He was the reason I sent for him when Amma could not stand. He sat with Amma for 4 days. He spoke to her in the gentle voice he used with children. He held her wrist and counted her pulse. He listened to her chest with the brass instrument he carried. He wrote in his notebook. Each evening he closed the notebook and put it in his case, and he walked outside the hut to where my husband Kwesi was sitting against the wall, and he spoke to my husband in and he told him plainly what he had observed during the day. He said, "Her pulse is steady but very slow." He said, "Her pressure is low and continues to fall." He said, "I have not seen this pattern before in a child." He said, "I have seen something like it once, in 1884, in Anyako, but I cannot remember the exact circumstances." On the morning of the 4th day of his presence in our hut, which was the 7th day after Kofi had seen the small light, Amma died. Dr. Holloway closed her eyes himself. He did not weep, but he sat for a long time with his head bowed. Then he opened his notebook and he wrote the final entry. He wrote in English. I knew enough English by 1887 to read the medical terms he was using. I had learned them from him over the years. He wrote, pulse, blood pressure, respiration, skin condition, pupillary response. He wrote the values. Then he wrote, cause of death, not identifiable. Patient deceased. Then in the small column on the right where he kept his classification terms he wrote, inconclusive. I watched him write the word. I asked him then in Doctor, do you know the word the elders use for this? He looked up from the notebook. He looked at me. He did not answer for a long time. Then he said in Mrs. Dogbey, I know the word the elders use. He said, I cannot write it in this notebook. He said, my medical society has a category for that word. The category is native superstition. He said, if I write the word, the death is reclassified. He said, I am not permitted to record a death by superstition as a medical event. He said, this is the 3rd such death I have attended in 15 years. He said, I have written inconclusive 3 times. I asked him, Doctor, will the 4 other children of Kpando who will die after Amma also be written inconclusive? He said, yes, Mrs. Dogbey. He said, I am sorry. Dr. Holloway returned to Kpando 4 times before the rains came. He returned for the death of Esi Akoto, age 6, on the 2nd night after Amma's burial. He returned for the death of Yamensa, age 8, 11 days later. He returned for the death of Kafui Teta, age 5, on the 3rd week. He returned for the death of Akua Adze, age 6, on the morning the rains began in earnest. Each time the pattern was the same. The child had been healthy. There had been a light in the room the night before. Sometimes a sibling had seen it. Sometimes a parent. Once, in the case of Akua Adze, the child herself had described the light in the moment before she fell asleep, and her grandmother who slept beside her on the mat had seen it as well. Each time Dr. Holloway sat with the child for the days she had left. Each time he wrote in his notebook in iron-gall ink. Each time the entry ended the same way. Cause of death, not identifiable. Patient deceased. Classification, inconclusive. Each time, after he closed the notebook, he sat with the family for a small moment. He spoke to the parents in He did not write what he said in those moments. He told the parents of ESI, I am sorry. He told the parents of Ya, I am sorry. He told the parents of Kafui, I am sorry. He told the grandmother of Akua, I am sorry, and I know what your elders are saying, and I know they are not wrong, and I cannot write it. He told me, on the night after Akua's death, sitting again at our small table with his notebook closed and his case packed beside him, Mrs. Dogbey, I am leaving Kpando in the morning. I cannot stay through the rains. The roads will be impassable. He said, I have written 5 entries marked inconclusive. I have not written the word your elders use. I have not written it in the rotation book of any village I have served. He said, I have been in this region for 6 years. I have known what your elders call this since 1882. I have written inconclusive beside the names of children I knew were not dying of anything that could be inconclusive. He said, I am leaving the notebook with the British Medical Society in Cape Coast at the end of this rainy season. I will not annotate it. I will not append a comment. The notebook will go into the archive in Cape Coast, and from Cape Coast it will go to London. He said, I do not know if anyone will ever open it. He said, if someone does, they will read inconclusive 5 times beside the names of 5 children of Kpando who all died of the same thing. He said, that is the most I can do. I asked him, Doctor, may I write the word for you? He looked at me for a long time. Then he opened the notebook one last time, and he turned to the back end paper, and he handed me the fountain pen. He said, in you, write it where I cannot reach it. I wrote the word in pencil in small U script in the upper inside corner of the back end paper of his notebook. I wrote, Adze. I wrote it once. He took the notebook back. He closed it. He thanked me. He left the next morning before first light. Inconclusive did not mean unknown. It meant the known thing had been placed in a category where no one had to answer it. The British Medical Society, of which Dr. Holloway was a member, kept a manual. He showed it to me once, in 1885, 2 years before Amma died, in his hut at Anyako. The manual was small and bound in red cloth. He read me the relevant page in U. The page was titled Classifications. Under the heading Native Superstition, the manual listed 7 categories. The 4th was, Local Entity Attribution. Where village informants attribute a death to a named local entity, the medical practitioner shall not record the entity name in the official ledger. The death shall be classified as inconclusive pending further investigation. Such investigation shall not be undertaken at the request of the village informant. Dr. Holloway closed the manual. He looked at me. He said, in you, Mrs. Dogbey, I am bound by this. I asked him, are you bound to it more than to the truth? He said, I am bound to it instead of the truth. I did not understand it then. I understood it in 1887, after Amma, and after the 4 others. The British Medical Society would not investigate the entity the elders named. They would prefer to lose the children of 5 villages of the Volta region than to lose the category. Dr. Holloway gave me the pencil that night because he was retiring. He told me only after I wrote the word in the back of his notebook that he would not be returning to Africa. He died in Wales of pneumonia in winter 1894. The notebook went into the British Empire's tropical medicine collection in London. A Methodist sister verified in 1907 that the pencil mark was still there. As I write this in 1925, the word is still on the end paper. The word is in pencil. The word is in U. The British Medical Society has filed it as inconclusive along with the deaths of 5 children of Kpando in March and April of 1887. My son Kofi was 5 years old in March 1887 when he saw the small light enter the room where his sister was sleeping. He has remembered it every night for 38 years. He has not told anyone except me. He told me in the autumn of 1887, sitting on the laterite floor where Amma's mat had been. He said, Mama, I tried to catch it. Mama, it went into the wall. Mama, the wall did not have a hole. He said, Mama, I should have caught it. He was 5 years old. I told him then what I have told him every year since. I told him, Kofi, you were 5. The light did not enter because of you. He has not believed me. He could not. He had seen it. The hand that opened our threshold that night was not the hand of the firefly. The firefly was real. The firefly is what the elders named, and they were not wrong. But the firefly was also a name in a manual, and that part Kofi could not see, because he was 5 years old and he had only the room to remember. He has carried the room for 38 years. The mat. The wall. The light he could not catch. He confirmed his daughter's breath every night for 10 years before she turned 8. He held her chest in the dark. He never lit the lamp. He had not seen his sister in lamplight for the 4 months before she died, and he has not been able to trust lamplight since. I am writing this letter so that he will not have to say what he has been holding. I am writing it for you, Kojo. He carried the light. I carried the category. He could not have carried both. Read this after he is gone. Do not ask him. Let him put it down. Kojo, my grandson. I am writing this in October 1925. I am 73 years old. The doctor in Ho has told your father that I will not see another rainy season. I want to tell you 4 things. First. You had an aunt named Amma. She died in March 1887, age 7. I held her for the 4 days she was dying. I have held the memory of her for 38 years. Second. The missionary physician was Dr. Edward Holloway. He wrote inconclusive in his medical notebook because his society had a category that prevented him from writing the word the elders use. The word the elders use is Adze. I do not deny the entity. It passes through small openings. But the same word was also used to move those deaths into a category no one had to investigate. Both meanings of the word are true. Third. I wrote the word in pencil in the back-end paper of Dr. Holloway's notebook in April 1887, at his request. The notebook is in London now. He tore out a single page from the notebook before he sailed and gave it to me. The page is the entry for Amma's death. It contains the word inconclusive in his hand. In the upper inside corner of the page I have added in pencil the word Adze in my own hand. The page is in the tin biscuit box with this letter. 2 words now together on the same page, in 2 languages, in 2 hands. Fourth. Your father carried the light. I carried the category. He could not have carried both. That is why this letter is for you. I do not ask you to do anything with it, my grandson. I ask you only to know what your aunt's name was, and to know that the word inconclusive was a category, and to know that the word Adze was the truth, and to know that the medical society's classification was the only thing that was wrong, and was wrong by design. I love you, Kojo. Akpene Dogbey, Kpando, October 1925, March 1962. 5 years after Ghanaian independence. 1 year after the British Colonial Medical Archive at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine made the missionary physician case notebooks available for public reading. I am Kojo Dogbey. I am 40 years old. My father Kofi died in 1947. He gave me the tin biscuit box on the morning he died. I read my grandmother's letter the night after his funeral. I had read it 15 times by 1962. I had not understood it until October 1961, when the Daily Graphic announced the British Colonial Medical Archive had been opened. I traveled to London in March 1962. I asked the archivist for Dr. Edward Holloway's medical notebooks. The archivist brought me 3. I opened the third to March 1887. I found the entry for Amma Dogbey. The entry ended with the word inconclusive in iron-gall ink in the right margin column. The torn page in my tin box matched the entry exactly. The torn page bore my grandmother's pencil word Adze in the upper inside corner. I turned to the back-end paper. The pencil word was still there, after 75 years. Above the reading lamp, a small night insect circled the glass shade once and was gone. I asked the archivist if Dr. Holloway had left any other materials. The archivist brought me a folder of unpublished correspondence. The folder contained a 3-page manuscript dated October 1894 titled Notes Toward a Reclassification of Inconclusive Tropical Mortality. The manuscript named Amma. It named the 4 others. It described the medical society's classification. It ended with the sentence, "The category prevented investigation. The information is in the village. The category is what kept it out of the medical record." Edward Holloway. October 1894. The British Medical Society had received the manuscript. They had filed it without action. He had written the truth after all. Not in the notebook. Not where Amma needed it. But in a folder no one had opened. My grandmother had known it before he wrote it. I asked the archive for one thing only. Put the torn page back. Let the 2 words remain together. The archivist agreed. The page was bound back into the notebook in the spring of 1962. The 2 words inconclusive and Adze are now on the same page, across 38 years. I am writing this addition to my grandmother's letter on the 3rd night after the page was returned. Origin Protocol Witness File 013, Containment Method, Maternal Silence preserved through 3 generations. Status, Testimony complete. Adze remains classified as mimicry, Art 013. The medical category that filed Adze deaths as inconclusive has been reclassified. The you elders were right. The missionary physician was right also, in private. The British Medical Society's classification was the only thing that was wrong, and it was wrong by design.